Fresh ragu meat. I mean, I hope not. I hope you don't, you know.
This is the Escape Podcast for Star Wars: The Old Republic. Today, we'll talk about current game, community, and AIE guild news, and then we'll talk a little bit about things like character abilities and rotation while we finish our missions on Droma Kaas in our continuing series of live character playthrough for our SWTORs. This broadcast astromech is EPC 217. And playing alongside me is Seema. Hi, Seema. How is it going?
It is going well, Max. I'm kind of looking forward to... Well, we had Halloween already, so now I'm looking forward to Thanksgiving. I'm still freaking out about Christmas, but inside I also am looking forward to Thanksgiving. As for SWTOR, let's see. This week on Tuesday night, which is our MFN night, we were on the pub side. And in spite of it being... Halloween and people having conflicts and stuff, we did have 10 people show up, so we went and did Eternity Vault 16-man, and it went really well. The only little adjustment we did is that Kobu, and this was his great idea, and I, the two healers, we dropped out for the council fight, so we didn't have to have 10 people killing 16 of them, and 2 of those 10 people being us healers. So that made the council go really smoothly, and then we got to kick back, so we liked that.
Mm-hmm.
Then we joined the group again and went and put it back on 16 and killed Soa. So if you were wondering if that was possible, it is, because we came out of the instance, put it back down to 8. Then you guys killed the council. Then everyone came out again, put it back to 16, and we went in and killed Soa. So that worked really well. And then LOL last week, I mean, that's the raid team Lords of Light, not laughing out loud, Lords of Light. I think we did Group Finder Eternity Vault. I feel like I've had an Eternity Vault week this week. But yeah. So with this, with non-op stuff, I've been trying to gear up this little character here that we're starting with. I wanted to get her some, moddable gear and put some mods in, but I didn't succeed because I went looking for gear and couldn't find it. I don't remember where my focus is, what character, and I went and looked on 8 or 10 characters and couldn't find it, and but we're still at the level where having no gear doesn't really matter. Plus I have Shay Vizsla at my side and she kills everything anyway.
Right.
But true. Yeah, just in case anyone forgets that I don't like it that we can't search our inventory, just a reminder.
Just a reminder.
Yeah. Let's see. Anything else? Yeah, I think there's many other things, but that's good enough for starters. How was your week, Max?
My week was good. I was traveling a bit again last week, so I missed our ops night as you were mentioning. I was on a plane though, and my ping time while on a plane playing Star Wars: The Old Republic was about 700. So I know how that feels, and I was still able to do dailies in CC-198, but I wouldn't recommend it for things like operations or ranked PvP or anything like that. But that was interesting. I also spent some time this weekend, a significant amount of time, switching my mercenary over to innovative ordnance, and I did a few things in order to make that transition, and I'll be talking about that a little bit, I think, as we do our playthrough. So in innovative ordnance, I had to come up with a rotation, and that was a key concept. I think we've talked about that. It was probably 2 or 3 years ago now, but we talked about what rotation means, and it's something I wanted to reiterate that we'll sort of talk about on the side as we do our playthrough in a little bit. But I had fun doing that, including parsing multiple times on, Arsenal versus Innovative Ordnance. I did a little bit of min-maxing of my gear in order to be optimized with crit versus alacrity versus power. So it was an interesting experience, and I am able to parse quite a bit higher now, especially after tuning up my gear min-max by around 8%, almost 10%. Additional DPS.
So But is that mostly from tuning up your gear or mostly from switching specs?
It's about half and half. So
Okay.
half going to innovative ordnance and half going to, and this is just parse. This is just the parse though. So again, this is the kind of thing where it's specific to the kind of fight. You may want to be switching back and forth. Arsenal will still be superior if you're switching targets quite a bit. But I'll talk about it more.
Okay.
That, I think, is enough of that, though, so let's get into some of the news.
Now, an Imperial News Network report.
We did have a game update this week, just a little one. I didn't see it coming. I know they had talked about it. It was game update 5.5, and what they did is they raised the Command XP bonus for all of the weekly, daily missionary CZ198, Ziost. Those are daily, aren't they?
Well, yeah.
So
Yes, you can do them every day.
the daily areas where you have to do the series of 5 or 7 or whatever to complete the daily area, like Section X and Black Hole and CZ198, and they gave them quite a nice chunk of Command XP for finishing them, because they broke them and then they fixed them back down to nothing again, and now they brought them back up. I appreciate that. They did scale them by difficulty, so the ones that are the fastest have the least amount of Command XP, and the ones that take the longest
In other words,
have
our
the most.
favorite ones. Yeah.
Right. So it's
Our favorite ones have the least.
CZ198
But that's
has about
fine.
half of what IOCath has, as an example.
And if you do the IOCAT dailies, you deserve more CXP.
Yeah, exactly. And that's incentive to go and bother to do the IOCath, which I keep meaning to get back to anyway, because I want to get the 10 billion shards or whatever I need to summon all of my droid robots
Things.
and run around on IOCath for fun.
Also, this week, utility changes were announced for the 1128 update. And instead of making a separate post for each class, they did it all in one all in one post. So you can find that on the forums. I felt like reading through it that it was a lot of little tweaks that left room for tweaking more if the results didn't go as far as they needed to, which I thought was a pretty good approach. The one exception being Marauder Sentinel, which in response to some initial player feedback, they dialed back a little bit some of the changes, and there's another post then you can read that's specifically about the Marauder Sentinel changes.
Right. If you look through those notes in that dev forum post, which explains all the utility changes, you'll see a little dev note at the bottom which explains the change, and Seema and I had conflicting views on the usefulness of that. I sort of liked it as a little TLDR, just a summary. Mostly, though, and I agree with you, Seema, they weren't all that useful as background. It was more just,
I wish
this is a nerf versus this is a buff.
Yeah, I love it when they do give feedback. I do love that, so I don't want to squelch that. But like the comment that said, we felt this was too powerful, so we, reduced it. Well, we can already see that by the change you made.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. So it's more. I was able to just skip down and use it as a sort of an executive summary, but it doesn't really explain why or the math behind it or any of those kinds of things, which would be interesting. Let's see. Also in the news, server unification is happening next week. That's called United Forces, remember. So this is going to be happening on the 8th, Wednesday the 8th of November. A few things they posted this week in additional news. They were clarifying you will get some more default character slots unlocked. So basically whatever tier you're at, whatever the base for that tier of character slots is, you'll get double. So if you're completely free to play and you've never paid anything, you had 2, you will get 4 character slots. If you were preferred, you had 6, you'll get 12 as your base. And if you were a subscriber, you had 12 and you'll get 24 as your base. If you've unlocked additional slots beyond that, you will get those that base plus whatever additional slots that you paid to unlock on top of it. So if you were at 22 because you paid for 10 slots and you're a subscriber, you will now be at 34 because you're going to get the additional 12, if that all made sense to you.
Yes, yes, it made sense. It's means more character slots. And then the character cap, I like that that's going up to 100.
Yes. So in addition to you having the additional base slots, remember we're getting potentially up to 5 servers for Starforge coming together and 3 for Satil Shan. You could have many, many characters, so they said the character cap will go up to 100. You will not lose any characters if you're above the character cap. You just cannot unlock any more slots than 100. If you end up with 150 characters all together on a server, all that means is you will not be able to create another character until you delete characters down below however many slots you have unlocked, and you can't unlock any more than 100 is how that works. There's also a post up that you may have seen which talks about some of the rewards that are coming along with the server unification, the United Forces update. They wanted to put some incentives for people to jump back in and check it out, see what it feels like on the new unified servers. You will get a pet if you log in at all between the November 8th and November 27th. And then there's 2 achievements you can get. One for doing 3 PvP group PvP activities, or one for doing 3 group PvE activities through the group finder. We don't know exactly all what qualifies.
We're not sure what it. Yeah.
If a single
Like 3 of them.
flashpoint through the group finder counts, or if you have to do like the daily or the weekly. I think a single flashpoint through the group finder would count. So then if you queued up for 3 single flashpoints through the group finder, then you're good to go. If you get either the 3 PvP or the 3 PvE achievement, that then also qualifies you for the Darth Hexid Companion reward. So that has to happen between the 8th and the 27th. If you do get either of those achievements and you qualify, then after the 27th, Darth Hexid shows up in your Odessan notifications that you have a new companion to go check out and talk to and recruit.
Yeah. I think it's going to work sort of like some of the other companions where there was an item. So I think they'll mail you the item on the 28th and the pet on the 28th, but you can do the alert for Darth Hexid, or you can use the item.
Yes.
And skip the alert.
Yep, which is excellent. And then what else, Seema? We just had one extra note in there.
So there's some codes. Yes, probably everyone listening to this knows this already, but Revan Returns and KOTOR Speeder are 2 codes. The KOTOR Speeder gets you the speeder from the recent Cantina event, and Revan Returns... No, this is different. This is KOTOR Speeder is for celebrating KOTOR.
Yes.
And then Revan Returns is also for that, and it gets you free Shadow of Revan X Pack, which includes everything before that. So that's actually a great deal.
Right, especially if you don't have that X Pack yet, use that Revan Returns code. You go into your account page. There's a redeem codes option on the left on your account page. Go into there, put that code in, and you'll get that expansion, which is nice. You got that going for you, which is nice.
Going for you.
What about guild news, Seema? What do we got going on in our guild Alea Iacta Est, which everyone should join?
I believe that our Sunday night Imp side raid team, Death Star Troopers, is looking still for full-time DPS for Sunday nights, and they go from 8 to 10:30 p.m. Eastern. And then just so everyone knows, MFN on Imp side next week on 11/7. So don't worry about the server changes and all, because they're happening on Wednesday next week, not Tuesday. So we will be having MFN for sure.
Yes, I hear Corley's cooking up something fun to do on the last night on Jedi
Corley.
Covenant. I unfortunately will be out of town one more time. I got one more trip this month, and I'm not going to be around for the end of the end of Jedi Covenant, which is
the end of time.
going to be epic. Also in the news of our guild, Alea Iacta Est, BlizzCon is happening. That's a big deal for our guild. Our guild was originally founded about 10 years ago as a World of Warcraft guild. So there's still plenty of WoW and other Blizzard games that are central to where a lot of our greater guild community plays. A bunch of our guildies are going to be out at BlizzCon, and for every year for quite a few years now, we've had a couple spectacular sponsors of our guild rent out a room at one of the hotels down I think it's Anaheim, right? That's where BlizzCon is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And rent out a hotel room for the weekend and set it up as the AIE Guild Hall at BlizzCon. There'll be some podcasting going on in there. There'll be people hanging out. It's pretty cool. I would recommend going and visiting if you are in AIE, or if you aren't, then get in AIE and then go visit it.
Speaking of November 4th, that's also when Unholy Alliance guilds, including many people, are going to be doing their Extra Life charity streaming event as well.
Yes. You can find that at unholyalliance.org/extralife. They have a whole bunch of stuff planned, and Eric Musco is going to be involved, and all of that's going on the Harbinger server, I believe. That's gonna be a huge thing. They've done big things in the years past. I'm hoping I can at least stop in, but it's a big deal.
Yeah, it is for charity. They use a top-rated charity, and it's for hospitalized kids, and you can tailor your donations to be for local hospitals for kids. So it's not just some bucket in the sky. It's a really good charity. So
that's cool. That's a great way to do it. All right. Certainly also want to do a shout out to the chat room. Thank you, chat room. I'm glad to have you guys in there. I'm also now dubbing. In the pre-show this week, I dubbed them as our audio engineers as well. They're always that's the number one thing that chat room helps with before the show, as well as keeping us straight and listening to all our witty banter about various references to past material that I will not speak during the podcast. We will get an NSFW rating.
He was racy.
One other note I wanted to remember to make about the BlizzCon Guild Hall event. That is being sponsored by a couple people, but it is quite an effort. There is, if you look on aie-guild.org, there's some notes about a GoFundMe to everybody's chipping in to help support it, and I did that myself. So if you are going to go, if you are taking advantage of that, throw a couple bucks that way. That helps get internet for at least one of the days and get that room reserved. Cool. With that, are you ready, Seema? With that, we can get back to our play series. So,
oh yeah,
what has been going on? So last time we got to Droma Kaas. Zash got us going to chase down some stuff going on in Droma Kaas, including her plans to get rid of one of her chief rivals for the Sith Council, right?
I really like Lord Zath. I really trust her. She really appreciates me.
Yes, she's our friend. It's quite obvious that she's our friend for life.
Yeah, clearly.
She's encouraging, and she gives us presents, so we should just trust her implicitly.
Yeah.
So she had us chase down a relic that we now have in our hands, which is a Trandoshan relic, and a device that disables cyborg robotics, because Darth Scotia it just jumped off, didn't you? Darth Scotia is her chief rival, and I think she wants us to go kill Darth Scotia. In fact, I'm sure of it. So we went and got those pieces, and now we are here outside of the chambers of Darth Scotia, and we're about to go in and confront him and see what happens. All right.
We're going to kill him.
We are gonna kill him. Spoiler: we're gonna go kill Darth Scotia. So I'm still gonna take the lead this time around.
I'm going to be the spectator.
And that's because I told Seema that I get bored easily, and I might start space barring. I can control it.
I see.
Okay, so these guys are the Trandoshans.
Nothing yet. What makes this slave so
Slave.
bold to
Oh,
enter
that's it.
my
You called me
chambers?
slave.
Tell me,
That sealed your...
slave,
Let's kill
are
him.
you insane, or do you have a death wish?
I've been asked to kill you, and I hate to disappoint.
Skisk.
Skisk. This guy's name is Skisk.
Kill him.
Okay, so this was the first thing that we got. We went down to that. We went down and got the this relic. So we're gonna command them to obey us with this tablet. So the Trandoshans are relatively, well, they're not superstitious, but they're a little stitious, and
Clever.
and
Zash must have
this kind of
stayed
relic
up many a
apparently
night to think of that one. I suppose you'll be sending
puts
my
them on our
bodyguards
side or
away
gets them out of the way.
now, or maybe you'll order them to kill me.
Darkzoid choice. Yes, I will order them to kill you.
It should at least be entertaining. Tear him to pieces.
Cool. So they do. They obey me. Too bad that's not going to last them long.
But we already knew that we would be sending them to their deaths.
I think either way they
You
bite
shouldn't have
bite it.
done that. The bodyguards, they're nothing. Show. But you subverted my authority, took my slaves from me, and that makes me angry. And killing you will be over too soon.
Okay.
No. I think you're going
Yeah,
to
yeah. To the pain. I get it. All right, now we get to kill Darth Scotia. This is going to last about 2 minutes. Or 2 seconds, I mean. Okay. So that was quite difficult.
Is this
Did we not have to use the actual little ability? I thought we had to use it.
Zash?
I guess with the two of us here and with Shay Vizsla, Mighty Shay Vizsla.
So do we just
How does it feel to be killed by a slave?
so we got the little ability that's supposed to short circuit his cybernetics, and I guess we didn't even have to use it.
Think of how many years she must have spent
Yes.
plotting my death. She will kill you.
No, she won't kill us. She likes us.
No, she's our
She's
friend.
our friend.
She likes us.
You lie.
Ash would never do such a thing.
Zash would never do such a thing. She's our friend. Okay. So we're about halfway through the class story on Drome and Kaas. Now we'll go back and talk to Zash. But she's going to have one more thing for us to do while we're here, which is interesting. Oh, that's right. We got to go. She's not here. Let's just go take the speeder ride. Before we wrap up, what I'd like to do tonight is get to the end of Drome and Kaas, because this is where, at the end of Drome and Kaas, is where you get your ship, which is pretty cool. So while we're traveling over
Must have ship.
to the cantina where Zash is hanging out, having an alibi, rotation. So the deal with rotation is you have all of these abilities, right? All classes, and I'm going to come at it from a DPS perspective, but Seema can talk about it from a healing perspective as well. But you've got a bunch of abilities, and abilities, when you're thinking about how to use those abilities, there's a few rules you need to worry about. For DPS, you're striving for the maximum DPS you can get out of your abilities, and you need to be balancing resource cost versus time to cast versus the amount of damage that that resource does for that time and resource cost, and things like what I'm just going to call synergy, which is how different abilities work together. So what a rotation is the optimal way for a given situation to use abilities in order that is going to get you the maximum DPS. But you have to think about, there's certain abilities where you're going to want to be casting one ability before another, even if it's less or it costs extra resources, if it builds on the next resources and causes it to, automatically crit or give you a 0 cast time on your abilities. So for Sork, for example, as you move up in the tree, you can cast Force Lightning, and Force Lightning has a chance to create a 0 cast time on Crushing Darkness. So Crushing Darkness is one of your key dots. It takes what does it say here? It takes 2 seconds to cast. If it casts instantly, well then that's a much better ratio of time to damage to get that cast out. What you'll find is, as you're looking across different abilities and the amount of resource and time it takes to cast, without understanding any of those synergies, there's some abilities that just makes no sense to ever cast. Like if Crushing Darkness never procced, it is a very long cast time. 2 seconds is a long time to wait to cast this one thing. You could just cast Lightning Strike twice potentially, or something like that, and get more damage done in that small amount of time. So if you're going for maximum damage per second, you need to worry about those synergies. So that's what I mean by rotation. So I'll start there, and then I'll talk next, after we talk to Zash here, about what I did with Innovative Ordnance and why that was interesting, and why I had to think hard about rotation.
Well, when I'd heard she'd taken up with a Mandalorian, I was scandalized, just scandalized.
A Mandalorian? Does nobody value Sith blood these
Oh,
days?
can I kill these people?
I know. Don't you think so, Zash?
The places Amin's white eyes fools. Go and deep.
I'm sorry. Will you excuse me? I need to have
This
a
was
quick
clever of
chat
her,
with
wasn't
my
it?
apprentice.
To go get an alibi.
Now, as I was saying, thank the Emperor you've arrived. It doesn't matter how much one drinks. These parties are just dull, 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 dull. I hope you've come to...
I'm just going to be blunt. Scotia's
I
dead.
have done as you wished and killed the Darth.
Brilliant. Simply brilliant. You have performed magnificently, apprentice.
I know I have.
Lord Zash.
Darthanaton.
Darth
I'm honored.
Thanaton. So here's the next antagonist in our story, or one of them. Darth Thanaton now shows up.
You going to introduce me?
Sorry, I'll just be a minute. Don't go anywhere. I have some further instructions for you. As I said, my lord, I'm honored. But why call me?
You have nerve, Zash. Nerve.
Nerve.
Who's smarter?
With all respect, Darthanaton.
I like how they call her
I don't know
Lord
what you're
Zash and not
talking
like
about.
Lady Zash.
Don't play ignorant with
I
me,
like
Zash.
that too.
Scotia's dead.
It's a title. It's not a,
Scotia?
it's a
Dead?
Sith title.
That's the first I've heard of it.
What?
When did this happen?
She's a good actress.
Just now, Zash, and you know it. What did you expect to gain? His position? His title? You know it doesn't work that way. Where's your discretion?
Can I go kill him now?
Now, I've been at this party for ages. Now, I may have had a little much to drink, but I'm fairly certain I haven't murdered anyone. There have
Clever.
always fancied
Clever
Scotia's
girl.
chambers. So much more shelf space.
Zash, I don't want to have this conversation by hollow. Report to my chambers immediately.
Yes, Darthanaton. It'll be my pleasure.
Clever girl.
What was that all about?
Give me time to talk to Thanaton, and then meet me in Darth Scotia's chambers. And don't worry, you've played your part, now it's time for me to play mine. We did it, apprentice.
Oh, she's totally our best bud. BFF.
Yeah.
All right.
She'll never try to steal our soul or anything like that.
No. Why would you even think that? All right. So now we got to go transition over to Darth Scotia's chambers, and then she'll have another task for us on this planet, which we should be suspect of. But anyway. Okay,
I don't know what you mean.
so back to my deal with my mercenary. I'm going the wrong way. Where am I going? I needed to switch. I wanted to switch to innovative ordnance, right? So I was Arsenal. I've been innovative ordnance in the past. I switched to Arsenal about 4.0, and I just stuck with Arsenal. Arsenal was doing pretty good, and I was fine with it. And especially for PvP, it's still probably my preferred spec. I could get a lot of damage out of it, and it was fine. We've been doing more veteran mode content though, veteran ops, and I wanted a little bit more, especially after the nerfs recently. I wanted a little bit more DPS. Even little bits would be helping us out in a couple different ways. So I decided, why don't I test out and check if I can get more out of innovative ordnance? Because that was what was showing up in the forums and people parsing and showing their parses. They were saying innovative ordnance is coming out a little bit higher. So I did a whole bunch of my standard rotation of Arsenal on a ship dummy with star parse to give me a view of what my baseline current DPS was. And my gear wasn't min-maxed all that well. It wasn't the balance of crit to alacrity wasn't as good as it could have been. So that was something one thing I noticed. It was coming out a little bit lower than I would have liked. But then I also switched over to back and forth to innovative ordnance a couple times, and realized I could get a couple hundred DPS, probably to 300 to 400 higher DPS off of innovative ordnance over Arsenal if I was playing it perfectly as well. However, to do that, getting back to rotation, I had to figure out what rotation, what the innovative ordnance rotation would need to be. And it's a little more complicated than Arsenal, but there's the series of steps of using abilities in the right order to make sure you have the maximum DPS you can get out of the spec. So I used a couple guides. I looked at some parse logs from people that had posted on parsley.io for where they were getting some maximum DPS out of the spec. And I then developed my rotation based off of that, and I practiced it and trained it, and got between that and the differences in my gear about 10% higher DPS than I had been doing, without really upgrading my gear too much, just mostly just mixing alacrity and crit differently. Got about 10% higher DPS. So let's go talk here to Lord Zash, and then we could talk a little bit more about that and hear how it works for healers as well on rotation. Lord Kiernan.
Yeah, there
Who is this?
It's Lord Zash's apprentice. Surely he knows.
You wouldn't tell us if he did.
Warpines Brigan Iswis Buidan.
Still, it doesn't hurt to ask, does it?
Colonel, let it rest.
I will not let it rest. Everyone knows Lord Zash was at the party when Scotia was killed, and yet everyone knows she killed him. She somehow devised a way.
Oh, this is where we could just like spill it. Nobody will believe us though.
Dead.
I'm just gonna call them cowards.
That's not fear I smell, is it?
Of course not. But one must be ever vigilant on Drummond
I'm not
Pass,
getting
so that
to
your
like
enemies
smack
don't gain
people
any
as much as.
Maybe you shouldn't talk so much then.
But I must know. Please, you must tell me. How did Zash kill Darth Scotia?
I was gonna say I did.
Actually, I killed Scotia.
Clearly he's not saying anything, Conan. Let it rest.
Oh, you
Fine,
don't
then.
believe me?
Fine. But I'm warning you, Calaveras. Lord Zash is becoming too powerful too quickly. Since when has anyone in the history of the Sith committed a murder so brazenly, yet made it appear that she was somewhere else the entire time? It's enough to wake the Emperor, I tell you.
Enough to wake the Emperor. That's
You don't want to
foreshadowing.
wake the Emperor.
Yeah, let's sleeping act dogs lie. We gotta go over here. So this is Darth Scotia's chambers, and Lord Zash has already taken them over. She is sassy.
Because there's more bookshelves, she
More
said.
shelf space, yes, for her knickknacks.
Perfect timing, apprentice. I just met with that insufferable Thanaton, and I have good news.
Everyone's talking about how you killed Scotia.
And that's
Good.
making
Let them
me
talk.
upset.
They can't prove anything, and it'll drive them mad. And my meeting went exactly as I planned. You would have been proud of me. I went.
So yes, she got promoted. What about
Do I
me?
get a promotion too?
For now, you remain
That was
my
a little-
capable apprentice. However,
That didn't
a
sound
Darth
right.
can raise an apprentice to a lord, so your prospects just improved. Remember the map you found on Korriban that pointed us to the power of Tulak Horde? The first piece of that artifact. That power is here on Drummond Kaas. This piece is in the deepest chamber of the Dark Temple.
Okay, so this is
Scotia always
the last
hoarded
thing we
the
need
key
to do on the
chamber
planet.
where Hutt holds his credits. Now I have Scotia's title, his chambers, his research, and his key. He always said I would enter the Dark Temple over his rusting corpse. However, I won't be the one to go into the Dark Temple.
I always have to do your dirty work.
Tapain aipain, karahita bawarp.
Eater cam.
Before I went to
Yes.
Korriban to choose an apprentice, a furious apparition awakened in the Dark Temple. imprisoned
Yada,
its
yada,
owner,
yada.
murdering all who trespassed on the innermost chamber. But I had a dream. An apprentice of low origin humbled himself before the apparition, pacifying it. That's why
Humbled
you and
myself?
your
Not
peers were
likely.
singled out.
Wait. You want me to bow to this apparition?
You must go into the temple and face the apparition. And when you do, I believe
You're
that
right,
your
Starry Saber.
humility will be the key. Still, I want you to know, I'm not certain you're the one from my dream. I fear I may be sending you to your...
Toughen up, woman.
You're a Sith. Start acting like one.
You're right. You retrieved the holocron from
Blah, blah,
Korriban.
blah.
Darkhold's power awaits us both. We must not lose sight of
All
it.
right,
Use
fine.
this glyph to enter the innermost chamber of the Dark Temple. Humble yourself.
I'm not
before
gonna.
the
I'm gonna
apparition
punch
and
him in the
bring back
face.
the piece of
Can you
the
punch a ghost in the face?
Saida, iswis us uf bendan, ja atnam, in puidangarja.
All right.
Kim Val is so pithy.
How's our dark side? Not very dark. 1600 dark. Next tier of darkness is 3000. So we're not even dark 1 yet.
I'm at 2476. I'm darker than you are.
Why are you so dark?
I don't
You've been
know.
like out like killing younglings or something, but on
Out killing
weekends.
kittens and puppies.
Here, I'm jumping off. It's a shortcut. We're going all dark, Starry Saber. Or Shadow. We are going all dark. That was part of the deal. I have never taken a character full dark. I've never taken character full dark story. For the DVL, I had to do a Dark 5 character, but I did it all with diplomacy.
Right. I did the same.
All right, so now we need to go to... Yes, we need to go all the way to the Dark Temple. Which I think we can take a cab. All the way, can I say cab? An Uber, a space Uber, a Suber. Yeah, all right. All right, on the ride, Seema. So that's DPS rotation is all about maximum damage per second and lining up your abilities in the right order and using only the ones that contribute to the right resource to time ratio and stacking up of synergies. Tell us about healing. Is it the same?
So with healing, it's similar in that there are also synergies, things that you want to cast together, or when things happen, you want to do another thing. So it's almost like you have little combinations in your bag of tricks. But rather than doing a set rotation that's always going to yield the most healing, you're also looking at where the healing needs to go and making, like I would call them, judgment calls all the time. So, for instance, you can see that the tank is taking a lot of damage, but there's a DPS over there that's also taking a lot of damage, and the tank can survive longer than the DPS can. So you might send a heal the way of the DPS. Or in another situation, you might send it in the way of the tank because you know the tank is going to be taking a big hit coming soon because you're familiar with that fight and you need for the tank to stay alive. So that's more what's going on in your head when you're healing.
Yeah,
But you still have to have those combos because sometimes you want to put out a big burst of healing. Sometimes you want to lay down a foundation of a lots of little heals that are going to yield results later. So
that makes a lot of sense. I always, when I was healing, and I was probably too conservative and wasn't optimal in my rotations, but I always reserved a couple abilities as like the oh crap abilities.
yeah, I mean, some people say with healing that, that like there's the ABC rule, always be casting. It's just because you always want to be ahead of what's going on. You almost never want to be standing and waiting for damage to happen. So you're always starting your next cast. You may end up canceling it, especially if you're running low on resources, but you're always doing something.
That's absolutely true. And that's a good point too for DPS. You never want to be, so here, the main resource for Sork is your force power, right? If you're at 100% of force power, you're not using your resources efficiently. If you're not casting something every second, because you do have abilities that take 0 force power, if you're not casting something every cast on every global cooldown, you're also not optimizing the maximum you can get out of a rotation. So I would imagine that's also true of healing. If nobody needs any healing, well then yes, then you don't necessarily need to cast a heal. But I've seen Seema even use that as an opportunity to throw out a little DPS. So there's probably always something you could be casting.
If nobody needs healing, and I know they aren't gonna for a while, and I also am way ahead on resources, I will just, I'll DPS. I mean, I just do it for fun. I don't think my DPS actually makes any difference.
Oh, it totally does.
But
Seema carries us on the DPS. So in my rotation for Innovative Ordnance, I had to work out Innovative Ordnance versus Arsenal is a sustained damage spec, and it relies on a couple dots. And uptime on dots, keeping them up 100% of the time, is typically the way a dot spec will work. And that is true of Innovative Ordnance. You have 2 key dots that you want to have as close to 100% uptime as you can. So you need to be timing your rotation out, so as those are falling off, you get the full timing and ability, the full use of it, because if you're cutting it off and refreshing it early, well then you spent resources for only half of the damage. So you want it to sort of tick as close to the full duration of the dot as you can, but you don't want it to be off of the mob and not ticking again by the end of when that. So you need to be refreshing it either at the very end or just after, as close as you can. So I had to work that out, which was interesting. And then there's a couple other abilities which cause, which cause those synergy situations that I was talking about, where you want to cast a thing. And if you, once every 7 seconds, if by casting one ability, it can cause another ability to be an insta-cast, but only once every 7 seconds, so you can't have it too close in the rotation, so you need to be doing other things in between. You have to be watching out for those kinds of synergies and timing out when it's most appropriate to cast those and get a feel for when you can be casting it and when you might need to be throwing other things in between, and how you balance that, like interrupts or cures or purges and things like that. So I practiced on the ship dummy to start, and I got my optimal rotation for that kind of optimal fight. So when you're practicing against a ship a dummy, you're practicing a fight that's the simplest form of a fight possible, where you're standing completely still and you get to cast your perfect rotation, right? That's not typically how most fights work. It is a good way to do a baseline match of spec for spec, perfect rotation, and figure it out. But then my trick for feeling how... Oh, geez, he just knocked me off. I lived though.
That's awesome.
Now I'm in a whole. I got a whole bunch of other guys all around me. Where's now? Kemval's not here to save me. That's okay. I've got heals and stuff. I am real good. So we're up here making our way through the temple, and one of the mobs had a knockback and knocked me way off. So what was I saying? Oh, my trick for working on rotation. First, I do it on a ship dummy, and I practice and make sure I've got it down. You could do it on a ship dummy and start like moving around a little bit and make sure you're good at moving out of circles and things like that while you're practicing your rotation. But then my ultimate tool for practicing rotation is PvP. And the reason I do it in PvP is that's where you have to be reacting to the most. You have to be reacting the quickest, right, and changing changing up for the situation as often as the most often you would for any fight ever. So it's a good practice to see if you can do your rotation in really complicated situations. There's other things for being really good at PvP, which would complicate your rotation. So you don't want to break your rotation by doing things like teleporting around when you don't need to, or doing a lot of knockbacks like your overload, which you may do more often in PvP. But I find it as a good opportunity to check if I can get a good amount of DPS while having to react like that, especially compared to my other spec like Arsenal in this case, and make it work when when I am having to move around and do a whole bunch of other things at the same time. So, and I did. So I would recommend PvP if you're really wanting to tune up your spec. I would recommend. Are we going the wrong way? We're up here on the second floor. Yes.
I'm just hanging out with Kimval. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, we need to go back halfway down. When I was trying to learn to heal, so I healed a lot at launch. Not a lot, but I even healed in PvP for a while at launch. But I hadn't healed for a couple years, and then I was getting my mercenary a healing spec, and even that I took the mercenary into PvP as a healer. PvP groups, just random PvP. Everybody loves healers regardless, so people would be happy to have you in there healing. And it's another opportunity to try to get the most healing you can out of the amount of time you can, and have to react to a whole bunch of things all at once. Again, it's not perfect because you don't have like a tank versus raid members and having to worry about large burst damage on one particular person where you'd be set up in a sort of a slightly different way. But you still get a really good chance to practice that opportunity to be really reactive and try to get your optimal rotation going.
It's also good for checking out that you have your UI in a way that's working well for you.
That's a good point. All right. So this is the chamber door. Look at this. This is pretty good art on this chamber door, isn't it? Look at all these creepy faces like etched into the surface. Like they're trapped souls.
Yeah, creepy.
So I think here we're going to meet up with the Force Ghost from coast to coast. Here this is pretty good cinematic. This cutscene. I like when it's that whole, you hear something behind you and the ghost walks in and you can't see it, and you turn around and then he's right in front of you. And then he sort of beats the crap out of you. Oh, I tried lightning.
Force ghosts are no joke.
Did you see the lightning?
Yes, you tried it. I guess it doesn't always work.
I felt your movements in the Force, and they stirred me.
So this is Lord Calig, the Force Ghost of Lord Calig.
I am still too weak to leave, but I knew if I made myself another nuisance.
So he lured us here with some of the things that he was implanting with Zash and...
At what they cannot control. And here you are, blood of my blood. Here you are.
Okay, so this is the reveal in the story. He just told us that we are a descendant of Lord Calig in some way.
Talking about?
You don't know me. Has our family fallen so far that the son of my sons does not know the name of Calig, the name so long revered in the annals of the Sith? You are my
Yeah,
descendant.
we don't know.
By how many generations I do not know. But know this. Your strength in the Force has awakened me from my stupor.
Yeah, just get to the point. That's my response.
What do you want?
Weaklings of this planet trespassed my tomb. I rose, resuming my former life. This temple became my kingdom.
Yes.
I was once more.
Doesn't he give us something here?
First grasped the hilt of the
Your lightsaber.
I knew my hour had come and gone. That your strength, not mine, would return our family to glory.
Just give me what I want.
Tell me where Tulak Horde's artifact is.
Don't speak of it, wretched thing. Its master murdered me and laid me to rest in this.
In bizoze waitai spira press incretai. In bize e wanata.
So Kambal said it would serve me well to have my master devour you a second time.
Flesh of my flesh, you should teach your
I will devour you a second time.
I liked it when he told Lord Vash she had bad breath.
I will deal with him as I see fit.
fair enough. I only caution you not to take obedience for in restoring.
I knew this was going to be a long conversation, but it's a good part of the story.
Treachery is the Sith's endless game. You must win it.
Yes, then I will win.
Don't worry about me.
Beware your master. Beware your apprentice.
But not Lord Zash.
Taken by surprise. Do these things, and you will be unstoppable.
But we don't have an apprentice.
But you have
Yeah,
not
we
come to
don't.
see me. You have come for the artifact.
Do we get an apprentice?
Wrest from Tulak Horde before he dies.
As the Inquisitor?
Take the artifact, but be careful. I know not what it does. Only that betrayal follows it everywhere.
Yeah, I fear nothing.
When betrayal shows up, I'll kill it.
It's a little dumb.
I shoot the darkness.
I'll cast magic missile at the darkness. I'll punch betrayal in the face. Alright. Alright, now we pick up the artifact. So that's what we came here for. We don't know what the artifact does, we just know Zash wants it. It's a little naive of us to just be handing around powerful artifacts, so it could come to bite us in the end. But
I see you put it in your fanny pack.
apparently I did. Where did I put that thing? I don't see like a big bulge. Well, if you know what I mean. Sticking out anywhere. All right. So now our hall communicator is ringing. I like this little effect. This is, it's not unique. There's ways that every game sort of does this, but I liked the hollow call. And it shows up in the cutscene. I thought it was a good way to like continue the story without you having to run all the way back.
Yeah, I agree.
What's her name on Coruscant?
She needs
General
to,
Garza.
General Garza.
Could have used it
General
a little
Garza.
bit more often.
She needs to, yeah.
All right. Who's calling? It's probably Zash calling. Did you get it? Did you get it? Yeah.
Apprentice, do you have the artifact yet?
Yeah.
Guess.
What do you think?
Of course.
What do you think?
Brilliant. Magnificent.
She's so encouraging.
My chambers. I cannot wait to see this artifact. And I have a surprise for you.
What kind of surprise?
Trust me, you'll love it. Now hurry back with the artifact.
I do
can't
trust you,
wait.
Lord Zash.
Trust you, just unreservedly.
Let's hurry back and get our surprise.
Yes, it's a surprise. All right, let's
It's
just quick
probably a
travel back.
cupcake.
I'm just gonna quick travel right back to the Sith Sanctum. Some talk in the chat room there. I like Sith Inquisitor, Sith Zork. It's one of my favorite classes to PvP on. Also, that sounded inappropriate. One of my favorite classes for PvP. And to this day, I still like it. It's not been the most powerful since 4.0. It's not been as good as it was prior, but it's still quite good. And I prefer playing Madness in PvP. By the by. All right, we're in here. Oh, we gotta go. That's your purple circle. Poor Seema has to go do all the class missions after the fact. All right. Hello, Zash. What you got for me? A knick-knack?
Hello,
Zash.
A framed picture of us as BFFs?
Since you left for the Dark Temple, I've been reading and reading and reading.
Or are we each putting our hands
Scriptures
together and
told us
making
our
a heart
treasure trove
sign
of
like that?
research. Now, who would have thought a man like that had such a curious intellect? It almost makes me regret that we had to kill him. But let me see this wonderful artifact you found.
Here, let me pull it out of my butt.
If you knew what I had to go through to get this.
It was a challenge, and you overcame it utterly. But tell me, how did you manage to pacify the apparition?
He was peaceful when I got there. He likes me.
Not sure, but he hates you.
Seemed to think you'd betray me.
Then that
Not
ghost is an
not
idiot.
that way.
I am not
You, what
so
you have in your head when you pick the option, you have in your head what you want the witty quote to be, the response,
Right.
and it's not always as
right.
optimal.
I've suspected. These artifacts will change everything, apprentice. You especially. They will make you more powerful than you could imagine.
Oh, really?
I've foreseen it.
What do the artifacts do exactly?
Yeah,
This
Zash.
artifact is one of 5 that together describe a peculiar ritual used by the great Tulak Horde when he conquered the Drummond system. Until I have all the artifacts, I cannot understand the full nature of the ritual, but I have foreseen that you alone...
All right, so this is the setup.
The artifacts are scattered across the galaxy, some hidden by Tulak Horde himself, and some wrenched from his hands by
So this
betrayers.
defines chapter 1 for this
Documents and
Zork
Sasha's
story.
effects point to Balmora and Nar Shaddaa, but I will need to do more research to locate the other 2.
So this is the first artifact of 5. The next 2 are on Balmora and Nar Shaddaa. So this now starts to line up the way the class stories all work for chapter 1, for the chapter 1, 2, 3 of all of the base classes, which is you have a reason to go to each of these planets. There are other things you can do when you get to the planet. There's some really good planet stories. But there's a reason to go, and that's what the reason is in the story, to get the 5 artifacts.
I have foreseen the power you will gain. But first, I believe I mentioned
Yes, the
the
surprise.
earlier.
Is it cake?
To find these
I want the
artifacts,
surprise.
you'll need a ship, and so I have ordered you one.
Here we
All
go.
you
It's a
have to do
ship.
is pick it up.
Just show me where the fun is.
You'll find your ship at the spaceport. Then the galaxy is yours to explore. Don't forget to contact me when you reach each planet.
Okay. Yes, Kemval.
Claubina.
All right. So as I said a couple times along the way, this is one of my favorite parts. I think we'll just quick travel to the spaceport.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite parts of all of the class stories. So at the end of the second planet, be that Dromund Kaas on the Sith side or Coruscant on the Republic side, as you finish your class story on that second planet, you get gifted or allowed to acquire in some way, some interesting ways in some cases, you get a ship.
Yeah.
And I like... I always liked this. This is one of my favorite parts of any of the class stories. One of the parts that I always like to spend a little bit of extra time just watching the cutscene again, back in the days when there were no strongholds, this was a pretty important part of the game. I really liked at launch that the ship was like part of how everything worked, right? Are you going to be able to come in here with me?
I don't know.
We'll see.
Oh, it's let's see.
Oh, hello.
Yep.
So this was like player housing at launch in a little bit of a way, which I thought was cool.
And there's still ways where you're limited if you don't have your ship.
Yes. There are ways to level to max level. All my characters are max level. There's ways to level to max level without getting your ship, but that is a problem in a lot of ways.
There's many ways, yeah. Many ways.
So definitely go get your ship. Even if you just want to PvP with the character, go get your ship. You're gonna need it. You're gonna want it. You can't get summoned to various planets. You can't do a whole bunch of things. You can't exit to like Nar Shaddaa to go to the casino for the events and all that kind of stuff. So get your ship. All right, so this is the ship. You get to see it in the hangar. In the bounty hunter's case, there's a little fracas that happens in order to get your ship, but it's cool. It's cool. It's yours, which I like. What's your favorite ship, Seema?
The agent ships, Imperial Agent. That's my favorite ship by far.
Yep, you're right. It's this sleek, cool looking. I like it's a little bright on the interior, but the outside of the ship especially is the best.
I couldn't come in the ship with you. I think I would have been able to if I already had my ship.
Oh, yes, okay. That makes sense, because you can't fly around. So, and as soon as you walk in the ship, this is also used to be a more important part, is your ship droid.
I am 2VR8, factotum droid for this vessel. You must be my new master. Gentle, kind new master.
So, as you enter your ship, you also get the ship droid. So by this point in the original, before we got all these other companions and these companion rewards and things like that, this was the second companion you would get. And it was easy to overlook it being a full companion, but it is, in that it's it's a companion you can definitely use for crew skills. And so getting to your ship and getting this extra companion right away and being able to send it out on crew skills, this is a big transition point in the class stories. So that's pretty cool. 2VR8 and the Republic, his Republic counterparts have their own independent personalities. They're a great part of the story, and they continue on. In fact, they show up again on Odessen in an interesting way. And by that point, no matter which you are, Republic or Imperial, you can get both of them back as companions after Knights of the Fallen Empire. All right, my own droid, excellent. 2VR8 lives in fear of you his entire life for whatever reason.
Pleased that you find me agreeable. I will never disappoint you, Master. I am programmed for a wide array of tasks, including but not limited to meal preparation, ship welcome aboard.
So you used to not be able to use he also gives you the tour of the ship as part of the cutscene. We're just going to skip through that. But you get to ask him whether he can fight, and they'll say no, but they can these days.
Providing security while I'm not aboard.
I regret I am unable to offer you combat support, Master. Frankly, my chassis couldn't withstand the stress. However, should any errands arise that are beneath your superior status, please do not hesitate to call upon me.
So at launch, you weren't able to use the ship droids as combat companions. However, now you can also do that. You can give them a weapon. You can make them a healer, tank, or DPS, just like all the other companions, and you could use them that way if you wanted to.
I mean, you could. I mean, you technically could. You could bring them with you, and they would like.
They would do. Yeah, true. They would do a little bit of stuff.
They didn't refuse, but they were not good at it.
All right. With that, I think we can wrap up for the evening. So this is the ship. I've got a whole bunch of things unlocked on my ship. Maybe we'll show that off next week. Like here, you can see I've got the operation training dummy that shows up. All the things that you have unlocked will show up on your ship as soon as you get it. So there's some useful stuff.
If you don't have a training dummy unlocked on your ship, where do you do your practice?
You can do it on the fleet, usually on your fleet Vanguard vessel. There are training dummies on those fleet vessels where you can do all that kind of thing. And there's different types of training dummies as well. There's combat, operate. I think there's 3 because there's at least PvP and PvE, but I think there's 2 types of PvE training dummies as well. Alrighty then. Anything else before we wrap up here on Drome and Kaas, and next week we'll head out into the galaxy, Seema?
I'm looking forward to Balmora.
Yes, I think that will be next on our list, won't it? That is one of my favorite planets. So, well, they're all my favorite planet. I tend to say that to everyone I get to, but Balmora is good. All right, so I think with that, our little EPC 217 droid here can pack up and head out the airlock on my shiny new ship and broadcast this podcast to all of you. Thanks to you, for all of you, to you, all of the people that I am talking to now. Thanks, everyone.
You guys.
Thanks, everyone, for listening. Please keep up with us on Twitter at MaxTheGrain, at AIESEMA. Subscribe, follow, bookmark us in all the places, including newoverlords.com, iTunes, YouTube, and Twitch. Also, certainly come find us on Jedi Covenant. We are in the middle of the server unification. We're going to have a whole bunch of people coming in from all of the other servers that are merging into what will be our Starforge server. So that's Shadowlands, Ebon Hawk, Pot 5, and Young Ma. If you're on any of those servers and you've been looking for a guild, you know how we run, you know what AIE is all about, definitely come check us out next week when you get your characters all merged into the Starforge with us. That would be awesome. And with that, I will say goodnight to everyone. And goodnight, Seema.
Later, guys.